Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast. This is a show where we aim to educate, inspire and entertain through real life stories and interviews from people in the Scottish property community.
As always, thanks for listening and give us a follow on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Remember to join us at our monthly networking events on the first Wednesday of every month. Tickets are available on our website. So without further ado, we'll just cut straight into this week's podcast.
Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast, Graham Budge.
Thanks for having me.
Right, mate. I've known you for almost 10 years since we first met at a property networking event as well, and we've always kept in touch. So, no, I thought we'd have you on and talk about a subject we've never really covered on the podcast, which is rent to rent and how you've been now tying it into helping the housing crisis as well, effectively. So, tell you what, before we get started, let's take a wee bit step back and tell the listeners where you grew up and what brought you into this path of property.
Yeah, so I'm from Edinburgh. Stayed in Edinburgh all my life. Brought up with three brothers. With a household with my mum and dad. Dad was a taxi driver. My mum was a nursery nurse. Moved about a bit sort of in Edinburgh as such. Now I've got my own family. I've got my wife May, three kids, Emmy, Mila, and Lilo. They're all 3-year-old, 8-year-old, and 13-year-old. So. My house is a busy place. But yeah, so everything obviously we're doing is trying to, everybody does everything for family, right? Without sounding all cheesy and stuff like that. That's the purpose that we're doing this. So in terms of, is that what you mean in terms of introduction and stuff?
Yeah. Was that the main driver for you getting the property? Was to, I suppose.
Do you know what? The main driver initially was to getting out of the 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. What was that at the time? Was that the B&Q?
It was B&Q at that time, aye.
Yeah. That's when I spoke to you as well.
Aye.
I connected with you probably back in 2015, 16. I think we were probably both doing some serviced accommodation stuff at the time.
Yep. And that was like rent to rent, what we're going to talk about.
Aye.
So none of those properties were purchased. They were all leased properties.
Yeah. Which is good. It's an important topic to cover because a lot of people that are starting out in property don't have the massive capital pot or private investors they can tap into, or even the education and know how to do it, whereas the rent to rent's that more lower hanging fruit. Yeah. However, you go tell us about a situation where you lost 130 grand as well. Yeah, investment. So
let's tell the listeners. So first of all, rent to rent. What is it? What was it in your view when you started out?
So rent to rent, we didn't have the funds to buy a property, so you lease properties. That's the only other way to do it, to get control of properties. When you lease a property, you're responsible for everything. So we cover first £100 in maintenance, for example. So we need to make this, for a landlord, they have to have reasons to work with us. So we typically will cover the first £100 in maintenance. We cover all the bills. We guarantee the rent. Now, to begin with, being brutally honest, guaranteeing the rent is a saying that if we had to get the money to guarantee the rent, we would, but now it's more enforceable now because of the stage that we're at. But we want to guarantee rent for a landlord to give them peace of mind. At that stage, if ever went Pete Tong, I was taking out a loan to pay this landlord his rent.
So these are just residential, landlords who've rented their properties, maybe self-managed or through a letting agent. You come along, how are you incentivising these landlords? This is at the early days we're talking about when you first started out, which was what, 2015?
I think it was slightly before 2015, but around about that sort of mark. So should I talk about what I'd done initially, how I acquired the properties and then So initially I knew my criteria. So I knew that I was looking at Airbnb and Booking.com. That was the end goal. So the idea was get a property from a landlord or an agent, put on Airbnb and Booking.com, cover the costs and make a profit. Okay, and that's the long and the short of it.
And how did that go down? How was it getting those first properties? Can you remember how you got them?
Yeah, so to be brutally honest, we had to say that it was for corporate lets because technically you could argue whether it is or it isn't.
Because people, obviously with Airbnb comes a bit of a stigma, doesn't it? Like people know what, and a landlord's going to think, people are just going to come to my flat, use it as a party den, all the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, that is the risk that we take as a business when we're taking on these properties. But we were doing everything ourselves to begin with. So, like I say, me and my wife. Okay, so she was doing the cleaning with me. We were doing all the linen, all that sort of stuff. So we were in and out of these properties all the time.
These in Edinburgh?
So initially in East Lothian.
Right.
Okay, so these were all in East Lothian. So we were in and out of these properties all the time. So
what towns in East Lothian?
So started in Musselburgh. So we've got Musselburgh, Trinent, Cockenzie, Preston Pans.
Right.
I think so. We're spread out a wee bit. Nothing too far away from the house.
And bear in mind, like this was we're talking here, this was pre-legislation.
Pre-licensing, yeah.
Right. So how did that business go for you? What did you get scaled to? Like, was it making decent money at the time?
Yeah. So averaging about £1,000 a property. Now, see when it's run as a service department, you'll know yourself, it's no £1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
It's the winter you could be breaking even. In the summer you could be making £2,000, £2,500. But on average it was about £1,000 a month. If you're looking at that service accommodation model, you need to look at over the year.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're doing it, in the summer and you're like, this is brilliant, I'm making loads of money, and then
spend it on it.
The winter it drops. If you've not got contractors in and stuff like that, you could find yourself in a sticky situation.
How did you acquire those first properties then? Can you remember your very first one?
Yeah. So what I was doing is I was viewing every single property on the market. It was a 2-bed property, right? And they were all predominantly with letting agents. You've got like open rent and stuff like that, so you can get some direct to landlord stuff. I knew that how much I was paying. They were trying to remember this off the top of my head. It was around, I think it was about £800 for a 2-bed and £1,000 for a 3-bed at the time. It was what we had in mind. So we were viewing every single property that met that criteria. Then you bump into the same letting agents like all the time. And they're like, I don't know if they're like, oh, Christ is back, or you try and you want to become their pals. You want to become known. And then we had a letting agent.
But are you telling the letting agents when you attend the viewing, are you saying, by the way, I'm not wanting to move into this, I'm wanting, you trying to explain to them?
Yeah. So we're looking at rent it for our company as a corporate let.
And what sort of response are you getting from these agents when you tell them that?
Total mixed. So the initial ones, don't do corporate lets. And then I was trying to dig a bit more. Why don't you do corporate lets? Have you considered it? Do you know the benefits, all that sort of stuff? I did have a letting agent shouting and swearing at me on the phone, telling me to stop wasting my fucking time.
Right.
And that, but the way I see it, everyone knows closer to a yes. Yeah. You've got to be consistent, otherwise it's never going to happen. Because
how would you deal with an inquiry like that as a letting agent?
I mean, we do get them still.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you, I just say no. We don't do that sort of thing. The landlord doesn't entertain it because generally it's the license thing now. Do you know what I mean? Because generally
that's where it differs.
Generally they're pitching it. They've not got hope in hell getting the license probably in the first place, and then they're wanting to do it without the license. So then it just causes issues with neighbours and all that. Do you know what I mean? So it's not worth our while even entertaining it now. But back then, obviously, because we'll get onto that and how things have changed. But did you manage to scale that up? Were you making decent money at the time?
We did, aye. So like I say, it was averaging about £1,000 at a property. So
sorry. Before you move on to that, you eventually got a yes. How did that come about? Can you remember?
So the good thing to point out was this letting agent that gave me a yes supplies us with, I think, 15 properties today. Okay, so
still today,
to this day, yeah.
Right.
So,
okay.
But that's the thing, right? We're in this for the long term.
Yeah, good relationship to build and start though.
But, yeah. So because we're at without blowing my own trumpet, we're at the stage where we've got agents and landlords phoning us or messaging us to say, do you need any more properties?
Right.
Because we generally do look after them. And obviously we're in a different situation now from then, right? This was back at startup.
Yeah.
But when we got the first one, it was like, right, at first, to be honest, I was crapping myself. It's like, right, this needs to work because I'm responsible for paying this and I have to pay this. And
of course you've got all these corporate people lined up, haven't you?
Of course we do. But you see, like another thing to point out when we talk about rent to rent, like, it is low hanging fruit because the setup cost is minimal.
How much?
So typically your first month's rent and deposit. Okay, so let's say it's an £800 property, so there's £1,600. At that time, I think we were probably about £3,000 maximum to furnish a property. So you're talking £5,000, £4,500, and you've got a property that can make you money.
Did you have any landlords pull the rug from under your feet in terms of you put that £5,000 in and then it didn't really go according to plan and they're like, no, I want the property back? Because that happened to me.
I've never had that, to be honest. Never had that.
Because that's the risk, obviously, in rent to rent. And it really, obviously, you can write as many contracts as you want, but ultimately, if the owner wants the property back, then what can you really do about it?
And I think that's something that we didn't really touch much on during the initial conversations. But when we're talking to the agents and whatnot, if we have signed a year's lease, like I'm an investor myself, right? I don't want scumbags in my property as such. But see if it's not working. I would rather just end the relationship and move on, from both sides,
Yeah.
So
you can use that furniture in another one, so it's not like money wasted, right?
We've got 2 vans full of furniture. I kid you not, we've got furniture everywhere at the moment. But yeah, you're right. We can just take it out, we can empty it, and we can move it somewhere else. So like I say, it's not been pulled from our feet as such yet.
Yeah.
Hopefully it never happens, but we're in this for the long term, So
you try and do, what kind of contract do you write now? Like, what kind of agreement do you do?
So we've got a mixture actually. Typically, it's a company like. Now, when we're working with agents, they have their own version of the company like. But when we're direct with the landlords, we've got a standard company like that we use. And we do have a couple of agents that just want the standard tenancy agreement, but in the company's name rather than an individual's name. Now, I don't know the legalities behind that. You'll know better than me, but that's we've got a couple like that.
And you still go down the line of like, this is going to be for company people and corporate people, or do you just say we're just flinging it on Airbnb into booking.com?
No, we didn't touch Airbnb anymore.
Oh, you don't do that anymore? That's how it's changed. Right, so obviously tell us how it's kind of changed then, obviously, because there's quite a lot of years to cover, but if you can kind of fast forward to today, what happened? Obviously, I presume COVID had a bit to play with it.
No.
It didn't.
COVID wasn't our best time, but we survived through COVID because of the contract that we had. So
what can I tell us about the contract you got then initially? Yeah.
So initially we had a booking in one of our East Lothian properties, and it was from one of the property managers for East Lothian Council. And like I said, I'd always dig in, try and find out a bit more about it. And when I found out that this was an emergency accommodation, they wanted it for a week. I was like, that's fine. So we got contact details and stuff. It was in another week, and then they extended it, and then I thought, there's an opportunity here. Like, East Lothian Council houses that we did at this point.
How many did you have at that time?
So we only had it was about 4 or 5. It wasn't a lot, but we very quickly just started closing them down on Airbnb, right? Because you understand that on Airbnb you can do all this fancy virtual guest guides, you can tell people where the door is and stuff. You'll still get a phone call saying what's the key box code. I've sent you a message, I've told you this. People just don't read it, right? And then it's your problem, you need to fix it urgently and all that sort of stuff. So when we started handing them over to East Lothian, because there's a lot more to it, right? But we're just going very quick here.
Yeah.
But when we started handing them back over, we realised that the work involved was a lot less, because typically our East Lothian setup was 2-bedroom properties. Okay, so the reason it was 2-bedroom properties is it was 2 separate individuals that were going into the properties, rather than a family. So because the reason we done it with 2 is for HMO license, and if it's 3 or more, and so forth. So we would typically have 2 separate individuals, 1 in each bedroom, and they would be on a nightly rate with East. So we would invoice East Lothian Council a nightly rate for each room. They were also covering void periods and stuff as well. So,
and these are people who are effectively, it's temporary accommodation that the council are providing, because as a local authority, they have a legal right to provide your accommodation. If you get made homeless,
that's good.
You need to go to the council as a legal right.
Yeah.
So they use B&Bs, they use hotels, and obviously they've come down this route now.
Yeah. So obviously we'd seen the opportunity, which is why we went from 4 or 5. I think we got to about 12. That was kind of the cap, because we were very conscious that, we touched on earlier, we can talk about the phone call that I received, but we're very conscious this isn't going to last forever. Right?
Well, that was during COVID times then, was it?
Just before COVID.
Right.
So that's why it worked so well in COVID, because these houses were needed more than ever in COVID.
Yeah.
So the properties were full. And
because there was people there was breakups, there was a lot of pressure on families.
That'd be quite good station. Like the ups and downs you spoke about there, like kind of averaging out £1,000 a month. This must have made the cash better, or at least the cash flow better for the business to say, but we've got 100% occupancy. Yes, we're not getting the nightly rate up, but at least we're getting regular income all the time.
Yeah, and that was the massive benefit of it, is the consistency. Because during COVID, you will all be aware they pretty much just shut everything down overnight.
And you're thinking you can scale this up and you can grow this bigger.
100%. So we were taking the opportunity. So
why was it? Sorry, see, when you say there was predominantly, it was 2. So if you had a 2-bedroom property, it was 2 single occupants. So they 2 males that we put in.
So so they would always put the same gender in each property. We had once where they'd mixed it, but they very quickly fixed that. Because, they want. I suppose if you're, if you just imagine if you're a young girl, the last thing you want is some guy in the property that's there.
Obviously,
you feel intimidated.
Some random guy. Like, aye.
So because these guys don't know each other, right, that were in these properties. So that's why I say they try and keep them sort of the same gender and stuff.
And you don't have to get involved in any of that, though. You're basically just providing the property, and they deal with all that, moving the tenant in and all that.
So we do all that.
Oh, really?
Aye. So I'm saying it's a lot less work. There's still work there. So
right.
Typically what we're responsible is we're looking after the guys that are in the property.
All right.
Again, cover maintenance and all that sort of stuff, which we would do anyway, whether it's Airbnb or it was on contract. But we are managing the guys. Now, I do it very simply. Everybody uses WhatsApp. So we have just a WhatsApp group for every property. And then the guys that are in there can message me, their heating's not working, or toilet seat's broken, or you know how it goes when it's electric.
Yeah.
So, but that's the quickest way of dealing with it. If I get a message on WhatsApp, you just go and fix it. You're just going to do it.
Okay, so fancy making £1,000 for sending a WhatsApp? Let's take a wee break to talk about referring sellers to John and Lewis at Prime Property Auctions. Me and Stephen have both done it, and it couldn't be easier. If you know someone selling a property, the guys will pay you £1,000 or 1% of the sale price, whatever's higher, just for passing their details. Doesn't matter if the seller is already with an estate agent or not, just drop the guys a message and they'll do everything from the first call to getting the property sold. Know someone who might be looking to sell or struggling to get a result with their agent? Go to the link in the show notes and send them a message now. And just to go over the numbers again, right? So obviously we're talking about, say, give me an example, location, it's a 2-bed property, what a normal rent would be and what eventually the council were paying per night and how that would work out, and what you're paying the landlord then, just to give us a breakdown.
So give you the best one or the worst one or one in the middle, you tell me. Because I've got one which is phenomenal, one which is all right.
An average then? So in the middle?
Average, so...
I said the phenomenal one, but let's go for the average.
So the average one, £1,000 a month. Okay,
that's what the council are paying.
No, that's what I'm paying the landlord.
Right. Okay.
£1,000. You've then got your electricity and your gas, which is around about 150 a month.
You're covering that.
Yes.
Right.
So we're covering it, all property costs.
Okay.
So we're taking it from the landlord. Right. Landlord's nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Unless there's big maintenance. If the boiler goes in, the landlord.
And would they get that same if they put it on the open market for a standard tenant? Would that be what they would get, or do you have to pay a little bit more than market rate? Or
so initially we were just paying what they would get.
Yeah.
But to scale it quicker nowadays, and we'll get to that, is we are paying slightly above market rent.
Right.
Some would argue that it's not. Some would argue it is. What the market rent's like. It's all over the places now, isn't it?
Exactly.
Some for the properties that we've got, in my opinion, we're paying over rent.
Right. That's £1,000 rent to the landlord.
Yeah, so £1,000 rent, 150 for your utilities, and then just 150 for council tax as well. Okay, so you're £1,300 all in, and that's your monthly cost. Now you've got cleaners, so our cleaners get paid per clean. We spend £40 per clean, so you're another £160 for the month, say. And
you put the cleaner in weekly?
Yes. So
what about laundry?
So they do all that as well.
All right,
that's all inclusive of the £40 that we do. Now, we initially were doing all the laundry when it was Airbnb, so if you can imagine that washing line outside my house was a different bedding on it and all sorts of it, all times. But because go back to the turnovers being so little, we're doing the linen once a week. So if you add that up, sorry, I've not got it in my head there, but I'll do
the maths. Right, so
30, it's about 1,450. Just say 1,500.
1,500 a month. That's your costs. Yeah. Right, what's your income?
So from that, you can do the maths. I don't know if I should give exact numbers, to be honest, because it's a bit commercially sensitive.
Because it's obviously public money and all the rest of it with the council.
Yeah, so I probably shouldn't go into exact.
We don't want to get you into trouble. So if it's not the right thing to do, then don't worry about it.
I probably wouldn't go much for that. I mean, that's the running cost of it, to be honest. But like I say, we're on a nightly rate with the council now.
Well, can you tell me, without going into the council rate?
Why don't I make up a number for a council rate?
I think probably because it is public money, that probably information could be got from somewhere because they've got to
potentially could be.
They've got to kind of document everything. But can you give me on an average what potentially you could be profiting from one of these?
So on average, it's about 900
a month.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So on average, and again, rents are different, prices. Obviously, there's a lot of variables in there. But on average, you're about 900.
Right. Okay.
So slightly less in your kind of rent to SA market, but a whole lot less work. Yeah, systemised and gas.
So obviously, I talk a bit about we were doing all this stuff to begin with, and we've got systems and processes in place now where a lot of the work's done. So we've got a VA in the business that does the admin sort of side of it. We've got our cleaners that do the cleaning for us as well. So the work involved, I mean, my wife still does the linen, bless her. But again, it's not as massive as it was. I go back to Airbnbs. If you can imagine having 9 Airbnbs and there's 4 beds getting changed in that one, 2 getting changed in that one, it was a bloody
you get commercial washing machines and stuff
I
like
actually
that.
spoke to Laura Crawford about that at one point. We were going to look at just doing exactly that, getting.
See, obviously, this can be a controversial subject, right? Because obviously, it is dealing with people who are in need of homeless accommodation. There is a shortage of housing, and there is a housing emergency.
Yeah,
and you read the press and all the rest of it, and councils are getting slated left, right, and centre for using temporary accommodation, hotels, and all the rest of it. Yeah. Have you had any of that kind of feedback from people? Like, do you get any of that kind of like?
Do you know what my response
abuse?
To that is? What's the alternative?
They don't have it.
There isn't one. From our point of view, right, we were seeing it as this is an opportunity for not just for East Lothian council, we work with other councils as well. But if you're putting someone that's in need of accommodation, do they want to stay in an apartment or do they want to stay in a hotel?
And you're providing, you feel like you're providing a good service. It's a good quality home.
100%.
Things are at a good standard. Whereas you do see some hotels out there that are basically turned into like hostels.
So what I would say to that as well is that I'm not the only person that operates with this model. Right? There's some bigger companies out there that buy houses specifically for this, but. Through feedback for the guys that are in the property, generally they like the properties. Yeah, and I can always remember one guy saying to me, "There isn't any rats in this one, is there?" That stuck with me forever. Right? Like, of course, there's no rats in this one, but why is that? He was putting it politely a shithole. Right, so
you're taking pride in these properties, and you've got to set your standard and feel comfortable with what you're doing here in terms of people have got to expect a certain standards, right?
See, my perception is if you provide a good house, they're going to look after it. If you provide something with magnolia painted wallpaper falling off the walls, riddled and mold, they're not going to care about that, are they? Yeah. And then your maintenance goes up and stuff. So from my own sort of pride, I want them to be good properties. But from a business point of view, it makes more sense to spend that a little more. Get the property to a good standard, and then the guys that earn it generally will look after it.
Yeah, no, it's good. I put it out there because I know that there'll be people jumping on this, and we get the comments all the time, you greedy landlords and all that. But I do think that this could be, I think they should roll this out.
Part of the solution.
As part of the solution over more local authorities. I know Edinburgh are doing it. I don't think Glasgow are really doing it.
No. So we actually, at one point in the journey, reached out to every single council in the UK, which wasn't a 2-second job.
What sort of response did you get from that?
And the best response we had was from Edinburgh. Now, again, we'll touch on that. We're supplying Edinburgh with properties now. But
Edinburgh were the first to go in an emergency housing crisis, weren't they?
But there's other ones that are in emergency housing that are just not interested. No. So we spent a lot of time.
Why do you think Edinburgh are seeing the potential benefits and up for it and the other councils are not? Is it just depends who's in charge?
Aye, I think it is. But I think there's an element of we're already operating in East Lothian, which is right on your doorstep. I think there's an element of that when we explained the model that we ran with East Lothian. They could see the vision, if you like. Whereas we were generally talking, I can't remember which council it was, but it was like you couldn't go any further south. It wasn't quite at Land's End, but it wasn't far from it. And
what do you think the benefit to the councils is?
So the benefit to the council is we're managing the people that are in the properties, so they don't have to do that unless everything goes pear-shaped and there's issues. So typically we're managing that. But again, we all know they're in a housing crisis, right? They've not got enough places to put them in. There's hotels and so forth as we were discussing. But we're part of that solution to, we'll provide you as much as we can to put people into houses. Mm-hmm. Like that's what people want to be in houses. Again, I'll touch on that again. They don't want to be in hotels. They want to be somewhere safe, somewhere secure.
And you mentioned before about the term homelessness, because these people are effectively homeless, right? You mentioned that.
Yeah, I did before, yeah. So
this is temporary accommodation councils providing. So how do you get past that stigma of the general perception of, homeless people are going into my property? I'm talking about from the landlord's point of view, so that you can get that stock of properties to then supply the council with.
So the perception of homeless is, and I'll just be brutally honest here, is a junkie on the streets, right? With loads of problems. all our properties are sensitive lets with both councils actually. So although we don't physically pick who goes into the properties, they know that they're sensitive lets. So
what does that mean? Sorry.
So a sensitive let basically is they're not going to put anyone with like any issues, sort of whether that's alcohol, drugs, mental, whatever it is. Yeah, they're not going to put anyone with those issues into the property because we don't have the capability to manage those people.
Which is kind of sad because they're the ones that get papped off into the hostels, the hotels, the shitty, horrible, rat-infested accommodation that you get. But that's just the reality.
But it is a harsh reality. I mean, I would love to help these guys.
What type of problems do you get? Like, what type of people do you get in your accommodation then?
So it is a mixture. Some I've never heard from, to be honest. They just want left, to live their life, which is fair enough.
So they might not share their story with you, so you don't really get.
So some won't. Some definitely will. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to mention any names, but we've got some guys that are someone from Ireland that was relocating. Didn't have a house over here, was fleeing a domestic abuse situation over there. We have, again, domestic abuse is probably quite common. Families that have split up, which I think off the top of my head, the other things as well.
Have you got any families in at the moment?
So in Edinburgh, it's all families.
Right.
Sorry, I should have touched on that. Sorry, East Lothian is a slightly different model, although it's the same concept.
How many have you got in at the moment currently operating?
So we have 9 in East Lothian and 15 in Edinburgh.
All right, okay. Scaled up the Edinburgh quite a bit then.
Yeah.
And then just obviously, like we read the stats there today in the market update, 15,000 children are in temporary accommodation at the moment. So that's obviously, part of what you offer.
Is that children as in a whole and families and children on their own? Because we do have a bit of a mixture of that as well.
No, that'll be children and families.
Right.
15,000
children your own as well.
So in East Lothian now we do. Wow. So should I talk a bit more about the story of East Lothian?
Yeah, sorry, we sort of diverted there, but tell us, go back to the timeline, the story.
So generally, obviously serviced apartment, then emergency accommodation. I then got a phone call from East Lothian one day to say that we're going to fizzle out the properties that you've got, if you like, if that's the correct word. They had got their hands on a lot of new builds, which is it's brilliant. I'm quite happy with that. They got their hands on a lot of new builds, so they were going to start using that as emergency accommodation. So they were starting to hand back properties. And I was thinking at this point, shit, like we've got like 12 properties. Where am I going to put 12 properties worth of furniture? Where, what am I going to do? So at that point, we reached out to Billy from Mears. Met Billy a few times, and then we had offered him a couple of these properties as well. So Mears have actually got 2 of our East Lothian properties at the moment.
Okay.
Now, the reason that we went with Mears is because we've got 101 things going on just now, right? There's stuff going on left, right and centre. But we had made good money in the East Lothian property, so if that I could just, I was kind of like in panic mode here. If I can get this just to make a little bit of profit, keep it running, great. If not, then the second alternative was just to hand notice and start giving properties back. Let's say we gave 2 to Mears, and then East Lothian Council.
You just get the markup from Mears and your standard rent £600 a week. Mears give £800 kind of, so it's a smaller margin, but
it's a smaller margin.
5-year contract with Mears.
It's a 5-year contract we've got with both of them, but you're out. You're just literally the guy in the middle. Yeah, you've taken this property.
Almost a broker.
Yeah, effectively. What I would say with Mears, I'm not bad mouthing them by any means, right? Was the requirements that they had was a hell of a lot higher.
Yeah.
I met a few of the guys. What's that?
The council. Yeah.
And like I say, we have good pride. We keep them in good standards. But when Mears were coming to do their inspections, it was.
What sort of things are we talking about here?
So replacing carpets,
right?
Painting walls,
carpets that were like decent.
But so we actually, and this is a thing we don't normally do, but we renovated landlords' properties for them to get them ready for Mears. So it was like for example, there was laminate flooring. Do you know laminate flooring? It comes apart all the time.
Yeah.
Put it back together.
Yeah.
So there was laminate that was like that, and they wanted us to put a carpet on it.
Right.
Which there's no safety issue there at all, in my opinion. Maybe, they share a different opinion, but it was things like that. There were in one property they wanted a new kitchen. Now I didn't put a new kitchen in the property. We did kind of painted the doors and we tidied it up and made it look a bit better. And then we both came to a mutual agreement that would be fine. But at the back of my mind, I was thinking, these properties are good enough for homeless people, but why are they not good enough for immigrants? And without sounding racist or anything like that, nothing. I'm not bothered who's in these properties as long as they look after it, we can look after it, and everyone's happy. So
would you have lived in it?
100%.
There you go then.
Yeah. Like if I was in that position and I got kicked out of my house and I had nowhere to go.
So you're seeing it as like, this is over the top here. What some of the demands?
Yeah, genuinely was. And again, that's my opinion. Right? I'm no bad mouth for Mears because Mears do.
Do you think they're still at it? Did you experience any of that then?
Aye, they're still a bit like that. I think quite.
It's like so the guys will come out and they'll do an inspection, and they'll give you a list of stuff to say, right, I want you to do that, I want you to do that, I want you to do that. And
we've actually got we've taken on a few from Mears where landlords have kind of had enough of that sort of stuff, and they've just like, I'll just give it to a normal letting agent.
I would use Mears again. I genuinely would. It is the sort of, like you say, the 5-year contract where
once it's set up, it's fine. But
pros and cons, right? Yeah. Pros and cons to everyone.
And,
I suppose you needed a solution there rather than handing them back. And
but we're at the stage where I'm going to lose this whole business.
Aye, so that's 2 properties dealt with.
So yeah,
what happened to the other ones?
So I then got another phone call from East Lothian Council, saying that we've got a proposition for you. Now I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, right? So cut out if I'm not right, but I think there was a bit of, you're giving all these properties to Mears. Mears are a pain in the arse to deal with on their sort of point of view. So they weren't wanting me to give any more to Mears, basically. And I say cut that out if because I don't know how contradictory that is.
I mean, what we can say is you don't have proof of that, right? But you maybe think that could have been a thing.
Yeah, I think that there's an issue with setting properties up with Mears, because when I had that phone call, initially when they said to me, obviously we're giving the properties back, and I did say that I'm going to look at potentially giving them to Mears, because they make the decision whether Mears can have people in the properties in their catchment area.
Yeah.
And what I'd said to them was, obviously the properties were good enough for homeless accommodation, so I assume there's not going to be an issue, me handing them over to Mears. And I can't really say anything to that, can I? Because I've used them myself for years. So we had done that. We'd given a couple of Mears, but then when they got back in touch and said, look, we've got a proposition for you. I just don't think they wanted to give them Mears, to be honest. So when we got to that stage, the proposition was they were going to bring in children, if you like. And when I say children, not kids, like 16-year-old, 14-year-old, 17, 8, whatever, teenagers, and put teenagers in these properties with a case officer.
These are kids that have gone into care, basically.
Yep, but they're effectively they're immigrant children that have been taken out of their home and brought over to the UK for whatever reason that may be.
Oh wow!
So
right.
We don't, obviously, I don't dig too much into that, and there's language barriers and all sorts of stuff involved with this. So we've got
these are foreign kids.
Yeah. So there's 2 that we've got running like that at the moment, which is fine. We're happy with that.
So these are like, again, 2-bedroom properties.
Yeah.
And how many teenagers or kids are living in these?
So again, it's 1 per room. So there's 2 separate individual kids.
But who's supervising them then?
So their case officer.
Who stays in the property as well?
No. So the case officer has to visit them. So if they have any issues, they get in touch with a case officer who will then go out. So that there's no one physically supervising them.
What age group are you talking about?
So teenagers.
What would be the youngest?
So the youngest, so we just checked a 16-year-old guy into a property. He probably is the youngest, to be honest.
Aye.
So like I say, they're not physically kids. They're teenagers.
Yeah,
they're
young people.
Young adults.
Aye.
Yeah. So the case officer will go out there. I'm sort of trying to go back and forward with East Lothian Council at the moment. I want to run this the same way as everything else, to get a WhatsApp group. The guys can send a message, whether that's in English or Arabic or whatever. You've got Google Translate. You can still communicate with people via message. So we're still trying to set up. They were very reluctant to share contact numbers with them initially.
I would imagine because obviously the young people as well, you wouldn't get much detail, but it's fascinating, isn't it? Like what circumstances, what they've been through maybe in the past. Did you ever get any stories?
No.
Can't even relate. It's all private, isn't it?
It is, and you didn't really want to dig too much in, because when you're checking people in, generally there's an interpreter on the phone, there's a case officer,
right,
and there's them. So
everybody's trying to do their job and keep to the correct procedures, and you're not really wanting to kind of.
You don't want to dig into it. There may be there may be some horrific circumstances.
Any idea where they're coming from, or is it all over?
No is the honest answer.
No.
They could be anywhere. Right. Generally, I know that we've got a Chinese guy. There's an Arabic guy. Right. There's a. I'm sure.
So I wonder why, so the council initially kind of said, right, we don't need you anymore, and they took all the people that they had in your properties and put them into new builds, basically.
So they didn't take all the properties back. So remember I was saying earlier, they started to take them back one by one.
All right, okay.
They stopped doing that. So we've still got properties with them,
right,
with the initial setup, but we've got two that are, like I say, with this new contract.
Okay.
That phone call then pulling the properties back could have collapsed that whole company then. It could have
100%.
They pulled them all back.
It was the one and only contract, and it's a massive learning curve. If you're running with one contract, you're
exposed.
You're massively exposed. It's high risk, high reward. I think is it the best.
So how does the new kind of contract differ then?
Well, it's two. Where I was going with that is it's two separate contracts, right? So if the homeless accommodation one falls apart altogether, then we've got this other one, and they initially spoke about putting, from this contract into this contract. Although it's all with East Lothian Council.
Aye.
But there's a bit more
different departments, different budgets type thing.
There's other things that we can do. Like we can reach out to charities, to like Women's Aid and all these sorts of places. But I've not really dug a lot into that yet. But I think there's maybe opportunities, further afield for people that are needing houses. So when you get the time, what it's like, you're running at 100 miles an hour. So these are other avenues that we all explore. But obviously the rent to rent, I'm kind of changing the subject here, but a rent to rent was strategy one that we want to work with. Should I talk a bit more about the story and how we got to the Edinburgh side?
I'm fascinated with this whole thing because it's the first time we've really dived into how that whole sector works,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, typically it's serviced apartment, rent to serviced apartment. And down south, a lot of the guys do rent to HMO. But you know what Scotland's like, they make everything bloody difficult. So
here down in England, a lot of people talk about providing social, so private landlords providing social housing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen.
That's typically like Mears and Circle and all these sorts of companies.
Is that what they're talking about then? Yeah.
It is. And the problem with that is that you're getting a premium, right? With the model that we are running, because people have the flexibility to be moved in and out on the same day.
I think the point to get across is that, because some of this does make me feel a bit uncomfortable when I talk about it, but it's because it's like such a kind of hot political talking point, and there's so many people out there that are seeing us as the big bad greedy landlords taken from the kind of poor or the vulnerable. Yeah. But I think the point to get across is that private investment and private money can be part of the solution. I think
100%. You're providing,
and obviously it's got to work as an investment, because otherwise there's no point. Yeah. Okay, we could be multi-millionaires and possibly like just provide free accommodation to everybody, but realistically, that's not going to happen.
Never going to happen. Yeah.
So there's got to be, investors have got to be paid a return, or people have got to be incentivized for doing it.
Yeah,
the reality is there is a business element. There's also a massive human element to it as well, where obviously some people have come from terrible circumstances. Yeah. That's got to be, obviously that has to be in your head as well.
100%.
And you're obviously trying to make these people's lives better by providing a good, safe, warm house over their, roof over their head.
Like I say, we manage them through WhatsApp. So, we know the guys that are in the properties. Some are chancellors, don't get me wrong. Some are brand new, some are a bit more, but where I was going with that is we're providing a all-round service with the companies that we've got. Is, we're going to look after them until you can get them a house. And like I said earlier, put them in hotels. It's not the right place for it. Even like mentally, like everyone goes on a lot about mental health these days.
Yeah.
If you can imagine being in that position and being stuck in a hotel room with kids, it's going to drive you nuts. It's not going to help you at all. Whereas if you've got a 2-bed flat, you're at home. Although it's a temporary accommodation, like I say, these guys could be here in the Edinburgh contract for 2, 3, 4 years.
That's right. And how does the business develop? Because I know you took a bit of time out as well before scaling it further. About that.
So, in fact, before I go into that, can I just go into something that I wanted to touch on about at the very beginning, before even looking at rent to rent, right? and I spoke to you about this on the networking event. So when I first started, it was doing deal sourcing. And my first deal came for you.
Yeah, there you go, mate.
Where's my fee?
So I don't know if you remember
They
this,
didn't
right?
fucking ask him for his fee 10 years later. Eh?
You shouldn't have said that, mate. I'm going to send you an invoice.
But honestly, the first deal came for you. So and where that came from is, I don't know the bloody work, Nick. You just tangled it in front of me, kind of thing. But
what was that? Tell a story.
so when I first started, I was looking at deal sourcing, because you're looking at rent-to-rent deal sourcing, all the sort of low-hanging fruit, the lower barrier to entry stuff. And you put a post on Facebook. I think it was in Spin. Was it Spin?
I used to post in there all the time. Was that right?
You
I
usually
used to
drunk
fall
on a
out.
fucking Friday night.
Used to fall out with everybody.
Is it? Well, you never felt it with me. I'm thanking you right
go,
now for
there
that.
you
You know?
go.
So what had happened there was you put a post up for a block of 8 flats in Kirkliston.
Right.
Oh, I remember I viewed them from you as well, buying them with my business partner. Aye.
And it was from a company called Cairns that had them on as just an estate agency.
Aye.
And it was a block of 8 flats that were pretty run down, to be fair. And then I went and viewed them all on the back of your post.
There you go.
And then they were on the market for, I think it was offers over 400 grand or something around the 400 grand mark. And then we had secured a deal at 300 grand.
Which is fucking cheap now when you think about Curtis.
Honestly, see if I could
SA
get that
market.
today.
Wow, aye. That's why I've only got 12 properties and he's got hundreds, because I kept on giving away all the deals to everybody, not even getting a fee for it.
You're doing this wrong, Nick. But honestly, with that one, we had that one.
So you got that one for so you sourced that for an investor.
So the initial plan was to buy it.
Right.
And again, I'm not naming any names, right? But the business part I took on at that point, I didn't realise it was previously bankrupt.
All right.
So it all went Pete Tong pretty quick. So we had secured that.
Could you find that out earlier on? Like, is there anything we can learn from that?
I probably could. I
company's
suppose
house.
it's part of your due diligence at that stage. I mean, bear in mind, I was just a young guy just starting.
Aye,
property,
that could have
excited
been
about
on,
the deal.
just so people listen to this, if you go to Company's House, obviously you could probably see from Company's House if there was a
Bankruptcy against
if
the
there was
business.
a business that the guy had been part of and it went into liquidation or something like that. Or,
It's probably a good part for due diligence, actually.
Aye.
I would agree. What had happened with that one, just to talk about that deal, I appreciate we'll want to get back to rent and rent.
no, it's fine.
Was that deal we had secured it with a sourcing. So it all went pear-shaped, right? And we were getting to the stage where the agent was kind of getting dragged along here, right? And, you know, if you're an agent, you're just thinking, is this guy buying it or is he, you know? And we had signed the contract with the agent to say, you know, us or a nominated party. Once we'd got that one, we'd also got another one that we had viewed, which was in Newbridge, so just over the road. And it was a 4-bed bungalow. The place was massive. Like, you could divide it into 2 houses very easily and still have loads of space. So the agent actually came back and said, if you want to buy both of them, we'll honour your price at 300 grand. And then the other one, I think, was 125 grand, like, for a 4-bed bungalow. And there is, it's nuts. Like, I honestly wish to this day that I'd managed to get them, but, you know, things happen. So
you just sourced.
So with source number 1, now the guy that was my business partner, to be fair to him, he found the guy that was buying it from us, and the guy that was buying it from us done us over as well. So we had agreed a 15k fee, right, for the 2 properties.
So that's 7 grand to me.
So, well, we didn't do it. I would do you money at the end if I gave you that. But what had happened was we'd agreed that, and then we'd put it to the estate agent, the solicitor, sorry.
Right.
Bear in mind, this is very early on. Like, the solicitor probably knew more about this than me, right? And we had said to the solicitor, you can't complete until we've got the remaining fee. The solicitor completed anyway on the first one.
And you've got your fee in for 15 grand.
So we got 7.5 grand, which is the first half of the fee.
Right.
They were meant to do all the rest of it, purchase it, and then before completing it, pay the final 7.5.
Right.
As we were structured it. That 7.5 never came. So they had bought it and then never paid the other 7.5.
Bastards.
100%.
And that was all supposed to be the solicitor fuck up there then?
Aye. Do you know what? You can go all the way with the solicitor. No, there's no point in wasting your time. Eh? And maybe
That must have been, when you're starting out though, and you're working in B&Q, that must have been a sore one.
100%. Because bear in mind, there was 2 of us involved, right? Because the business partner at the time.
And you're initially trying to buy them. You're trying to buy them. So the one would have been huge to, if they went and then be, okay, we're getting 15 grand. But then
Because like I say, it
was that one guy that was buying it, or
one guy was buying both?
One guy was buying
No,
both.
I think he only
see this guy. Obviously, we're not going to mention the name, right? But we can just talk about the scenario.
Honestly, but
I know.
Well, no, that.
I'm sure you can find that company's house.
He obviously knew that it was a 15 grand, right? He obviously knew he had to pay 15 grand for the fee, right?
100%. It was all that was all clear.
Did you have contact with him afterwards? Like
So
phoning him up
here's
and
the
saying,
thing,
like,
right?
what's happening here?
The
Like,
thing is, I never ever had any contact with him. It was my business partner that did.
right?
Now, I'm just making stuff up here, right? But for all I know, he could have been paid the 15 grand, and I could have just been left out of pocket. I don't know, and that's my frustration.
So with the
I'd
business
like to think that's
your
not the
business
case, by the
partner,
way, right?
your business partner at the time, are you not still mates? No, you know, no. How did that all go sour?
Because with this business partner, he had got me to invest in crypto and stuff. That went Pete Tong. You know, it was
right.
But there was a few investments. Everything that I'd done with him just went pear shaped. So for me, it doesn't work. We're not working.
I couldn't have that question in my head. Maybe he got the money. I'd need to find the guy who bought the properties and say, what's your side of the story? What happened there?
But I'm not saying that's the case, by the way, right? So
no, I know, but
I've got that in my mind.
That was turning you. I know you've moved on since, and that was 10 years ago or whatever, but that would still be in my. I need to get to the bottom of that. Did he actually take the full fee, or was it the guy that bought the properties?
Like I say, it was for sure, and that was the first part of the deal sourcing. Right? And if I'd stayed consistent with deal sourcing, you never know, I could have had a deal sourcing.
But you're going to share the names with us afterwards so that we can, because we've got to look out for our community so that
100%.
nobody else falls foul of this sort of stuff in the future.
No, definitely will.
Then I'm going to get the DMs saying, "Can you name and shame? Can you tell me who it was?"
So that was a bit of sour.
But
taste.
so that went from, Nick's got my deal here. Well done, Nick. To bloody hell, this is about Pete Tong in the space of like,
I can't vouch for it. You need to do your own due diligence, but I can't vouch.
Nick, you shouldn't have given me.
I'm sure the guy that bought the properties probably.
I think he only bought one though. Like,
was it?
I don't know if that's why he only paid the 7.5.
Right. There's maybe a bit more to the story. Maybe there's another side to it.
But like I say,
one to be investigated. If the guy is listening to this out there, we want your side of the story. Come on the Scottish Property Podcast and
I'd love to hear.
Let's get your story.
I'd love to hear it. But I say, it's been it's in the past. It's a massive learning curve.
Good. Thanks for sharing that, mate. That's good.
So back to rent. So obviously we spoke a bit about the East Lothian setup. I then started to accumulate a bit of money, and then we started looking at scaling quicker, but south of the border.
Right.
Because obviously licensing, I never touched very much on licensing.
That came in. When did that come in?
Last year.
Good question. That
2022. 2022.
So we were all out of service department just before licensing. So thank God. Now we were crapping.
So you're not doing Airbnb, Booking.com. You stopped all that.
Yeah.
Because you're just. It's too much hassle.
Of a contract, yeah. So, but what would happen when that went in? There's a hell of a lot of grey area. There probably still is to this day with licensing. No one really knows what they're doing in the politest way possible, right? I had quite a few conversations with these Slovenian council to say, right, we're obviously renting these out night by night. It's a short-term let. They were looking at different ways of structuring it so that licensing wasn't required because they were comfortable with the condition of the properties and all that sort of stuff. So. And in fact, it's probably worth pointing out, I did actually go through licensing with one property, which was in Preston Pans, and an absolute nightmare.
That East Lothian?
Yeah. So
did you get it, or did you get a license?
I got a license, but I never got the planning, and then I started getting letters saying,
aye. So you're like,
because that was during the stage where where they were taking properties back. I thought, right, let's fire this one on. We applied for the license. We've done everything. We had the sign up outside with all the fire rigs, all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's quite extensive, to be fair. We've done it all. We got the license. I was like, happy days. Let's keep operating this one on Airbnb and Booking.com. And I then got a letter through the door saying, if it's something along the lines of you're operating illegally because you don't have planning permission. I'm thinking, I've got a license on one hand and this letter on the other hand. I'm thinking, well, I've got a license. What do I need planning for? Because you could argue this day there's no change of use. There's definitely not. It's people staying in it.
So what did you do with that property? What was your decision then?
So that property now is with East Lothian Council as a temporary housing unit now.
Okay.
But yeah, like I say, it was bloody frustrating.
It was technically should need planning and a license. Is it short term?
That's what I'm saying.
So bring us forward to today. Is there any other bumps along the way then?
Yeah. So everything south of the border.
Right. So wait a minute. So you went when you say south of the border, whereabouts?
So Newcastle. We still to this day got 3 units in Newcastle that have not paid me a penny yet. But we had stuff in London, stuff in Peterborough. Again, Peterborough.
Well, that was on for Airbnb and Booking.com.
So see the difference. It's probably worth talking about the difference in these ones. So we were looking for a company. We wanted to be a silent investor, if you like, right? We wanted to set it all up, hand it over, someone else manages it, and then we get the profit. They get their management fee.
Okay.
That was the idea. So.
And how many did you get to down there?
So I need to add this up. Sorry, we had 9 in Peterborough. Okay.
Yeah.
3 in Newcastle. London, I think we had 4 in London, and we had 1 in From, which is just kind of West London. So.
And how are you getting the landlords down there? Same again, just phoning up the agents and stuff. Because obviously you can't go and do the viewing and all that. Deal sourcers, right?
So we used deal sourcers down there. Let's say we had piled up. We had a wee bit of money that we wanted to. This model was working brilliant. Let's just south of the border. There's no licensing yet.
Okay.
Let's scale up there.
And how did that end then?
So we lost just over 100 grand with that. 130 including Newcastle.
Why?
So what happened was they give you all the predictions, right? And as you do as a deal sourcer.
The deal sourcer's giving you the package with the figures broken down. This is how much you'll get a nightly rate. This is the occupancy, all the rest of it.
So not just a deal sourcer. Again, I wish I could name and shame because I didn't want other people to fall into the same trap that we did. But one of the companies...
You can reach out to you personally if you shared it with them personally.
100%. If you reach out to me, it's a small community. I was talking about Billy from Mears earlier on. He had invested in one of these companies and lost all his money as well.
Wow. This is an English company?
This is an English company. And
a deal sourcing company?
Yeah. But
Bastards.
This company, there was actually a WhatsApp group with 80 guys in it that I got added to that had all been scammed by this company.
Fuckers, man. So they're basically taking upfront fees off you, sourcing fees?
So they had sources. So we were actually introduced to them by a sourcer, and then they said to us, if you want any more, give us a shout. So we had sourcers that had got quite a few properties for us, and we were paying their sourcing fees. Setting up the properties and then giving them to this company. Okay, we'd done it with 2 separate companies, right? And both of them never worked, right?
Never worked?
Never worked.
Why did they not work?
Because, I don't know is the honest answer. So
you put the money in to get them all furnished, all set up, ready
so we paid for all of that.
Ready to go on Booking.com. You paid the sourcing fee, what we talking, 3-4 grand?
So 3 grand a deal. So in fact, they were all 3 grand. If I remember correctly.
You actually did.
So we paid the source. So bear in mind, right? So let me talk through one, right?
Right.
So we've got a block of 3 flats. It was a townhouse conversion into 3 flats in London, right next to the underground. And it was really well located. There's a hospital not far from it and all that sort of stuff, right? This is prime location. How can this not work? Was kind of what we were going through. It was going through my mind. So we had paid the sourcer, we had paid the management company, we had paid. They got someone to come in and furnish it as well. So I'd paid for all the furnishing. So we were putting quite a bit of money into this up front.
How much roughly?
So with that one, there were 3 grand for the sourcing fee. So it was 9 grand in total for the sourcing for the 3 units. The furnishing was probably about 4 in each one.
Did you ever set foot in any of the properties down there? Those ones?
Not those ones.
Are you even certain that you got possession of the property? Like, did you see videos like this is how it looks, or they just take money for none?
So we were certain that we got possession of them. What I think, and I'm just trying to play a fair table from each point of view here. I think that the company just took on far too much, and then their idea was just chuck on Airbnb and Booking.com. But because bear in mind, if it makes no money, right? They're not at loss. They only make money when it's booked out. So
you're covering all the bills.
So we were covering losses on these properties as well.
Did you get any bookings?
So we did with the From property. So the From property was meant to be a high-end property, right? This one would cost us an arm and a leg, right? It's good to talk about this story because this is what we've done, right? So the From property, we're still paying leasing for the furniture to this day, £500 a month. Right. So the overcharged us for the leasing. So they must have had a deal with a leasing company, right? The rent-to-rent company, if you will. What should we call the management company? So the management company that were working for us, we had gave them all the money. We said we've scaled up quite a bit.
This is the company that deals with all the bookings, checking in the guests, maintenance, repairs, all this. Scumbag bastards.
Right. So we had gave them basically they were setting up. So they had paid for they had introduced us to the furniture leasing company. Now the stuff that they put in was shit quality. It wasn't worth, probably wasn't worth half what we paid for it all. Right, so we got done out massively there with what they had done, because we were asking for an itemized breakdown of what we had got, and it was just like it was like some kid had typed it on Microsoft Word or something, and then it's like put values to it. They never ever put values to this day. They never put values to anything, so it was clearly made up, right? But with this property, it was losing money every month. So what we'd done, what worked well with us with some of our service apartments up here, was we listed them with Comfy Workers,
right?
Which is a contractor platform.
Yeah.
And we started getting our own bookings. Now, it switched the table around a wee bit, right? So what happened with that is we had said to the guys, right, we've got our own bookings in between this date and this date. They must get in. It takes priority over the bookings that you've not. I think they had like one. Like, it was meant to be, bear in mind, it's meant to rent it out. It's like 60 or 70% occupancy at like 400 quid a night or something stupid like that. Which really should have set the alarm bells initially, but we've never done any high-end stuff. So maybe this is...
Sorry, repeat that again. How much did they quote?
So they were saying it was going to be 400, 450 pound a night.
For what type of property?
So this was a bungalow. It was a semi-detached bungalow. It was probably a wee bit rural on the outside of From, which is West London, like outside West London. We had tried to do a bit of due diligence on that, but because it was quite coastal, it's quite difficult to do the due diligence on that.
Yeah.
And these guys are blowing their trumpet for that much. You just kind of...
How did you get wrapped up? How did you keep scaling that? When did the alarm bells...
Do you know what? The alarm bell started ringing, right? And obviously we were losing money, right? That's the biggest thing. But my new business mentor that we have to this day says to me, Graham, you have no control. Why the hell are you scaling that business? And see, from those exact words that came out of his mouth, we just started getting rid of everything, right? So what we've done to get rid of that one, right? Bear in mind, these guys they've got everything. You're meant to give notice by letter and handing it to them, right? Bear in mind, we're up here in Edinburgh. This is down in like London somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So we had emailed them saying we're giving you notice, all that sort of stuff. They follow the process. They weren't interested. So what we ended up doing was we had spoke to obviously everybody in this WhatsApp group with the 80 other people that had been scammed by them. And what they were doing to these guys is they were just, once the guys weren't paying their rent, so obviously everybody's losing money, so they were getting to the stage where they weren't able to pay this company because they were in charge of paying the landlord and all that sort of stuff. So once they weren't getting paid, they were just going in, changing the locks, keeping the furniture. This is my unit now. You know what I mean?
You wonder if they used the same properties.
Quite possibly.
With like the 80 people that were part of that group, you wonder if they were just getting sold the same deals, the same properties.
I would not put it past them.
Do you know what I mean? Because it just sounds like an absolute scam. How much do you reckon you were out of pocket all in?
All in. So including Newcastle, 130 grand is what we lost like across the board. And bear in mind, right?
What was that? What time period was that? Was that over
that was probably over a year and a half.
Right.
How'd you recover from that?
Very difficultly. So obviously we had investors involved, right? Because I don't want to pretend I've got 150 grand in my back pocket because we
So not only did you lose that money, it's not even your money.
No, not all. Well, there was a majority of that was the profits from the rent to rent business. So that all got wiped. Stefan, my business partner, he had money, he had investors, he had his own money. He put that in, that also got lost. But the big thing was the investors' money, right?
Aye.
Now, I don't invest a lot with the investors, to be honest, at the moment. It's not something I'm quite big on, but Stefan's brilliant at that. He's an expert at that kind of thing.
How many people are we talking about that had invested in this?
So with me, I only had one investor.
Right, okay.
Okay, so and Stefan, I think he had a few.
Right.
Right. But what we've done is we always make sure the investors paid back first.
Right.
That's like number one rule.
So you can sit here today, look at the camera to these people who are watching who invested in you.
100%.
They got their money back.
100%. Same as Stefan.
Where did you get the money from though? If you're skint?
Because we've still got a profitable business up here.
Right. Which is the East Lothian.
East Lothian. But Stefan was he was working at the time as well. So
but it just took longer to pay them back effectively?
No. They were paid back on time.
All right.
I think some of Stefan's, had to do a couple of extensions, but they were all paid back.
Did you have to go back to like a job working full time and all that? Or?
Yes, unfortunately. So
what did you get a job in?
So after B&Q, I went into car sales to learn about sales, like I was saying earlier. I then studied to drive a taxi, an Edinburgh taxi, and I bought a taxi in late 22.
Okay.
but obviously things were going so well. I sold up that taxi business and I was 100% in property.
Right.
And then the shit hit the fan. Last May, I bought another taxi. And then I still drive the taxi.
When you say the shit at the fan, that was the money that you lost in England?
All this money we lost.
Aye.
Okay. So, because basically when that happened, I had to buy another taxi, right? Because the money had to come from somewhere.
Are you still taxiing just now?
So this is my last weekend.
Is it?
I could talk about that as well, but this is my last weekend.
So things are looking up again.
So money's paid back, business is back on the up.
Aye, we're in a really good position. We're in the middle of buying another business as well.
Fantastic.
So that should complete. Hopefully, I don't know how long it'll take for this.
What a journey!
Next week,
what can you learn from that? Like, how would you? What could looking at the warning signs? What could you have noticed more early on in that whole scam?
So everyone says do your due diligence, right? We've done our due diligence massively, but you need to look at company reviews, look at Companies House, look at Trustpilot, look at all these sorts of things.
Right.
Did you go there and meet the guys?
I've never seen the guys. I've met them on Zoom and all that sort of stuff. But due diligence, I just wouldn't invest in anything I've not got any control over. You need to keep that a bit of control.
Did they have the gift of the gab, just all big, all talk?
Aye, and honestly, when the address that we had to give the notice to was the guy's mum and dad's house. And you kind of got the guy's mum and dad's house shouting and screaming. That's no fair on them. Like, they're old people. Like.
So yeah, I'm looking at it like that. I mean, you'd already been in property and already doing a bit of business a few years. Imagine the amount of vulnerable people out there that just don't know anything, that get dragged into this.
That will happen day in, day out. Eh? And honestly, I would say if you've not got any control over it, because the whole idea, we didn't want control, right? We wanted to just sit and forget. If you've not got control, be very cautious. And
are they still operating, do you know?
Yeah.
Fuckers, man.
One is the Newcastle one. I went the whole property redress scheme. I followed that right through because I lost 30 grand in that one.
What was the outcome of the property redress? Didn't really come in?
No, I was successful with that. And then they basically given them a sum. You need to pay this money back.
Yeah.
And then money never came. And then I said to the property redress scheme, where's it? The money.
Debt collectors, sheriff officers.
So they say you need to take it to court.
CJ.
I probably could. Do you know what? Like, I see it as a wasted opportunity, and I would just trying to find that money, like to get that money back. And I probably should invest time in getting that money back. But
it's like part of it. I can't even believe, man. That's a lot of money to lose.
It's an important part because a lot of people.
Did that fuel you? Did that give you more?
It gives you the motivation.
Fire in your belly.
Didn't get me wrong, it pisses me off. And I know I've still got a loan for my previous taxi that I didn't pay off because I was putting the money into the businesses here.
Right.
So I put that into the stuff down south.
Because it could have easily gone the other way and totally destroyed you.
It could have changed your life. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know, like, you've got to be cautious. Like, everything's all sunshine and roses. It never is. But if you've not got any control on this stuff, particularly down south, I'd just be very, very cautious of that.
How would your mental health deal with that? Like when you're trying to build a business and support, a wife and 3 kids, like they take a fucking hit.
Do you know what? Like, see, my wife will probably tell the same thing. I'm the most laid back guy you'll ever meet, right? And see, for me, like, I just move forward. And I know that a lot of people aren't like
your
that.
Your wife couldn't have been laid back at that point when you told her that story, though.
Well, to be honest, she doesn't know the full story.
Oh, she'll know now.
She knows now, aye. But see, the reason for that is there's no me lying to her by any means, but she doesn't need to know.
No,
she's not really that.
In the most respectful way possible.
You've managed to kind of pull through.
But we've pulled through. She knows that I kind of went a bit pear shaped, not to the sum of 130 grand, but I didn't want to put any pressure on them and make her worry and the kids worry. That's the last thing I want to do. So I'll just deal with it.
Make sure you block YouTube on your home TV in your living room so that it doesn't pop up.
Look, there's Dad on the telly.
Telling the full story, man. No, listen, mate, all hats off to you bouncing back from that. Where are you at now then? Are things going well? Where do you want to push on to now? What's the plans?
So just now, let's say we've got this Edinburgh contract. So we've got a contract for 4 years for 30 properties in Edinburgh. Awesome. We've just taken on number 16 actually, and I got that at the PIN networking event. Nice. Where we just were. I will stand
There's
up.
There's better networking events available.
Sorry about that. So maybe it's something you could put in the Scottish Property Podcast. There's the elevator pitch. Just stand up and speak for 20 seconds.
Come along and talk and tell your story at that.
I've done a presentation at the Edinburgh one, but that was before the.
Come to Glasgow, because I think to myself, why are Glasgow City Council not doing this?
That's a good question. As we reached out to them and we actually got put in touch with someone else who was doing it.
Yeah.
That guy didn't know what to help us. He wasn't interested. He's
Well,
like, this is my cake.
He's the guy's got this email landed on his plate. He's like, I've got enough to deal with, like under-resourced, overworked. I don't need another thing to think about. And that's part of the problem with local government.
Aye.
They don't have the people to basically have the vision to say this could help solve the problem.
Because it is a solution. Like, and not that, like, doing it that way, whether it's your own portfolio or it's a rent-to-rent, it's irrelevant. You're putting people in houses. And that's the long and the short of it. Instead of
Brilliant, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Excellent,
where you looking for people to work with? Like, where can people reach out? Like, what you're looking to take on more properties from landlords?
100%. So we're always looking at, say, we're scaling to 30 as quick as we can. So you can reach out to me on Facebook. Just search for Graham Budge. I don't think there's a lot.
Put a link in the show notes. I presume you're needing investment and money as well.
But I mean, I don't know if anybody want to invest after hearing that story. But no, look, we're always looking for investment. I think
the honesty comes through, and I think we're talking to Christy L about this. You know, be honest, tell about your fuck ups, and
100%.
you know, life is not rosy. It's got its ups and downs. You've had a few of them yourself, so thanks for sharing. We never recommend, and we don't give financial advice, and we don't say go and invest with Graham. Do your own due diligence
on anyone and everything,
and go on his personal story, what he shared here today.
No. But I
Thanks very
appreciate
much,
you
man.
being honest and sharing the story.
no problem. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, buddy.